broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's WilmsFront Snapshot news show on this Monday, the 16th of February 2026. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where the big revelation from last week, well, it's kind of something we all suspected, but now we have a figure for it. Premier Jacinta Allen's signature big build infrastructure projects, which of course has left Victoria with a big bill, $178 billion of debt by 2027-28. Last week it was revealed that the CFMEU, who you will notice if you walk past drive past a big build site, particularly the Northeast Link, which is first cost 10 billion, then 16 billion, then 26 billion. It has CFMEU flags, flying high, that's the expression, all above it, in the Australian flag, the Aboriginal flag, you name it. So the CFMEU in Victoria, under its former State Secretary John Setka, was very powerful. They instructed their members to vote for the Labor Party so that the Victorian Labor government could continue to spend all of this taxpayers' money and also extra money on the credit card on these projects, the Metro Tunnel, the Westgate Tollway Tunnel. Now, in 2024, the 9 newspapers in 60 Minutes began a series of exposés called Building Bad, which showed that organised crime, bikies had infiltrated work sites. And so since then, the Albanese government placed the CFMEU into administration. Its administrator, Mark Irving, commissioned a report by anti-corruption lawyer Geoffrey Watson to investigate all the allegations of corruption. Now, in his report that was given to Mark Irving, he withheld 2 parts. That one which said that the extra bill that CFMEU corruption had caused was at a conservative estimate, 15 billion, and could be as high as 30 billion. And also withheld from that report was that the Victorian Labor government knew about the corruption and turned a blind eye. Now, the deleted chapters were only published after the Queensland Liberal National Party government's commission of inquiry into CFMEU corruption used its subpoena power to request the full report. And when it was released, Jacinta Allen, as she normally does, goes into hiding when there's a bad news story. But she came out the next day and she did her best Dan Andrews impersonation of her former master, took a leaf out of his book and said that these are untested allegations and that her government did not know. So they were either ignorant and stupid or they turned willful blindness. Now, Geoffrey Watson doesn't conclude that the reason that the Labor government turned a blind eye was because of the CFMEU Labor quid pro quo. Getting tongue-tied tonight. It was because they didn't want because investigating this corruption and cleaning it up, getting the bikies and corruption off the work sites would have delayed the big build projects. And we know that how much Jacinta Allen liked riding and cutting the ribbon, wearing a hard hat of the metro train tunnel, and having press conferences outside the Westgate tollway tunnel. She's always had a hard hat at the suburban rail loop. Everything else. Also opening up new hospitals. That's also what she likes to do as well. So she obviously wanted quite a lot of them done for the state election year. So it was more important to her to cut the ribbon and seem that she was delivering, albeit these projects always had several $1 billion worth of blowouts. That's why there's potholes on country roads. That's why even with the metro tunnel, there's not improvements on other lines. And of course, there was that overhead power line in Armidale that fell on trains that came out of the metro tunnel. So Jacinta Allen, she seems to making a political calculation that it's more politically beneficial for her to trumpet that these infrastructure projects have been done, and that voters will, although they're obviously not happy about corruption, then they will just put that to one side. Now, Jacinta Allen, she has never been a popular premier. According to the latest Demos state poll, she has a minus 37 approval rating, which is absolutely staggering. But the most noteworthy part of it is that, well, obviously Victorian Labor is extremely unpopular. Its primary vote has plummeted to 23%. In all the polls, the Liberals have still been ahead on the primary vote, Liberal National Coalition. The Greens have been stable on 15%, but One Nation now on 21%, 2 points behind Labor. So they are surging even in woke Victoria. Now, of course, Pauline, when she appeared at the Put Australia First rally, a lot of the crowd would have been there to see her. Obviously, they could only see her on stage. She was protected by that cage. The feral far left in Victoria, they try to protest and disrupt her events whenever she comes to Melbourne. So in November last year, she was not just there for the Put Australia First rally, but for the One Nation Victoria dinner, which was also interrupted by some leftist activists playing Pauline Pantsdown's song I Don't Like It. And then, of course, when she had her Please Explain cartoon movie premiere, a super progressive movie by Stepmate Studios, there at Crown Casino Village. There were all the protesters trying to disrupt it, a stink bomb in the theatre. We now know why they're putting in a special effort, is because they're scared that she is becoming popular here, because the far left, socialist Antifa, they believe that they run this town and they've got the protection of the Allen government. They always, when they counter-protest any nationalist or non-leftist event, they try to chant that you'll always lose in Melbourne. But they never say you'll always lose in Naarm. They still call it Melbourne. And now the Liberal Party, of course, still has its work cut out for them. I mean, 29% is still not a great primary vote. And Jess Wilson, she has still got it all ahead of her. She's still got a lot to do to cut through, and she or a staffer must do better with the social media. Did anyone see these lame Valentine's Day poems? They're posted on Jess Wilson's social media page. Roses are red, Jacinta's made a mess. This November, let's send in Jess. Rising crime is red, a brighter future is blue. This November, change the government, a fresh start for you. Of course, the slogan, a fresh start, that's certainly not going to cut through, just like Peter Dutton's Let's Get Australia Back on Track didn't cut through. Now, Jeff Kennett, the last Victorian Liberal Premier to be re-elected, Premier for 7 years from 1992 to 1999, has put forward that the Liberals and One Nation should do a preference deal and, if needed, form a minority government, while the Liberals should, if it's a hung parliament with other independents, that kicking out the corrupt Labor government is the most important priority. Now, Jeff Kennett, back in the 90s, was no fan of Pauline Hanson and One Nation, suggested they be put last on Liberal how to vote cards. Jeff Kennett, despite his strongman persona, is actually quite socially liberal. He's from the moderate faction. You remember that he personally donated to John Pesciuto's defamation defense against Moira Deeming, which he lost. And he did, when the leadership change happened from Brad Batten to Jess Wilson, he was critical of the change, even though that Jess Wilson is more aligned to his socially liberal values. Now, Jess Wilson has said that it's a matter for the party organisation preferences. We don't know if the Victorian Upper House will be reformed. It's still the only state that has group voting tickets, which is if you put a one above the line in the Upper House, and it goes on the preference journey, the preference lottery, which is why you can end up with weird parties winning, such as Transport Matters in 2018 to 2022. And now there is going to be a test for Jess Wilson and the Victorian Liberals with the pending Nepean by-election after Sam Groth, the former professional tennis player, took his ball and racket and went home, quitting 9 months before the state election. Now, down in that part of the Mornington Peninsula where there's a lot of boomer retirees, they're more likely to support a Teal independent. In the federal election, the Teal independent who used a yellow on his election material, Ben Smith, came close with knocking off the federal Liberal member Zoe McKenzie. The other Mornington Peninsula seat is held of Hastings is held by Labor's Paul Mercurio, of course, another well-known celebrity, former ballroom dancer. He's played Scott Hastings in Strictly Ballroom, of course, Dancing with the Stars, and then he reinvented himself as a foodie. And if you see him now, he's eaten a lot of food over the past few years. Now, Dan Andrews, you'll remember that he failed to lodge his bike boy defamation defense in mid-December. That's when he had his suspected stroke, his neurological episode where he's in reportedly rehabilitation to speak and move again. There's a lot of speculation that he will do a Christopher Skase when eventually the federal court proceedings begin in March, April, with an oxygen mask and a wheelchair. And now he did submit he and his wife Catherine's defamation defense, and he, despite all of the grief that, well, obviously in the beginning, Dan or Kath, whoever was driving, and crashed into teenage cyclist Ryan Millman, obviously had to be airlifted to the Royal Melbourne Hospital, had had his spleen removed. He has never really fully recovered. Then all of the statements from the Andrews that it was his fault, that he was lucky not to be charged. Now, Moorman already got is already suing Slater and Gordon, the Labor-aligned law firm, they basically told Ryan to keep quiet about the Andrews, otherwise you won't get your Transport Accident Commission compensation. And now he's suing Dan and Catherine Andrews for defamation, for blaming him for getting crashed into. Of course, we had the 000 call of Dan Andrews release where he said, "We hit him." And of course, they were allowed to drive the unroadworthy smashed window screen over away from the crime scene. And also, none of them were breathalyzed. And now, in their defense, they have accused Millman of seeking publicity and not vindication of his reputation or a solitum for injured feelings. So they're going to go at him again and are saying that they're the victims of defamation. So really, the Andrews, they and their lawyers, they are going to go in hard against Ryan and probably his father when it does get to the federal court, which it would likely be live streamed on the federal court YouTube channel.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, of course, we had the Friday the 13th Liberal leadership spill, which had a special WilmsFront show that evening with political strategist Bertrand Wilson, where we discussed the immediate aftermath of Angus Taylor defeating Susan Ley, 34 votes to 17, and Jane Hume being elected deputy leader after 3 rounds of voting. In the final round, defeating the now ex-deputy leader Ted O'Brien and Shadow Treasurer. Now, Angus Taylor will announce his front bench tomorrow, and it is likely that Tim Wilson, the member for Goldstein, will be announced as Shadow Treasurer, and Andrew Hastie, who withdrew from the challenging for the leadership, giving Angus Taylor a clear run, though it took Angus Taylor sort of long enough to launch that challenge. And Jacinta Price will also return to the front bench. Susan Ley has quit Parliament, and so there will be a by-election in her southern New South Wales seat of Farrer on the Victorian border. Its main centre is Albury, part of the Albury-Wodonga, Victoria, New South Wales border region. Now, there was a Teal independent candidate who came a close second at the last federal election. Actually, came second. Michelle Millthorpe got 19% of the primary vote, and came second with 43.8 to party preferred. Now, Labor probably won't run. I mean, they only polled 15%. One Nation have said that they're going to run, so it'll put the polls to the test. There is a rumour that they might pick Helen Dalton, the one of the New South Wales independent MPs, who was originally elected to the New South Wales Parliament as a Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party MP, though she and the other lower house Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Parties MPs all quit in protest at the leader, Robert Borsak. So Helen Dalton is the member for Murray, so it overlaps with Farah, and she would be a big recruit for One Nation, has a huge local profile. I heard James Ashby on Sky News say we've got 75 expressions of interest. We'll go through them first. The by-election date hasn't been called. Both the Liberals and National parties will run, because under the coalition agreement, if the incumbent retires, then under the coalition agreement, then both the Liberal and National parties can stand. Before Susan Ley was the member, Tim Fischer, the former Nationals Deputy Prime Minister, that was his seat, and Susan Ley just beat the National Party candidate in 2001 by about 200 votes. So she's been in Parliament for 25 years close. She'll get $220,000 in a parliamentary pension because she's under the old scheme. MPs elected after 2004 only get superannuation. So Scott Morrison, that's why he hung around so much after he was voted out as Prime Minister, because he needed another job because he doesn't get a pension for life. We had another poll, the Resolve poll, which had the Labor at 32%, a Liberal National Coalition and One Nation a dead heat at 23%, the Greens at 11%. Though they did two polls, a Resolve. So they did one with Susan Ley as leader. This is with Angus Taylor as leader. So it was the LNP coalition on 20% and One Nation is 25%. So the Liberal Party shills on Sky News in particular are all saying that this is the new beginning. The party can, under his leadership, be on the mend. Now, Angus Taylor, he is promising a traditional Liberal Party economic policy. So he's talked about cutting taxes. He's said that it was a mistake for them to oppose Labor's tax cut in the election. Cutting spending. They're going to oppose Labor's mulled changes to the capital gains discount. Anthony Albanese said he isn't going to touch negative gearing. Again, these are not, they always frame it, particularly the apologists at the ABC like David Spears, as these as tax breaks. They're not tax breaks if you're not being taxed as much, because that's your money, your earnings. And also he has flagged a more pro-business policy to get productivity up, which is why we continue to get inflation. Promised affordable energy and also bring migration down and shut the door to those who hate our values and to make housing more affordable. What that all means? Well, Angus has been clipping, and well, his staffers have clipping and posting things to social media. So I'll let you be the judge if he gives any actual additional information here.
We'll stand for an immigration policy that puts the interests of Australians first and puts Australian values at the centre of that policy. If someone doesn't subscribe to our core beliefs, the door must be shut. If someone was to import the hatred and violence of another place to Australia, the door must be shut.
Authorised by Angus Taylor MP, Liberal Party, Camden.
Well, we're talking about people who don't accept the most basic beliefs that have made us successful as a country. I mean, we believe in democracy. We believe that you need to obey the law. We believe in basic freedoms of speech and religion. And if people don't accept those things, they shouldn't come to our country. The door should be shut. I mean, we talk about those things in our citizenship ceremonies. We commit to them in our citizenship ceremonies. People who don't believe in these things, they are not the people we want.
Authorised by Angus Taylor MP, Liberal Party, Camden.
Grant and Georgia are an amazing couple. They work really hard, 2 jobs each. They have 2 young kids who spend time at daycare and at preschool. But they can't seem to get ahead. And that's because interest rates have gone up 13 times under Labor. They've gone up 13 times because inflation keeps going up. We want families like Grant and Georgia's to get a chance to get ahead. We want families like Grant and Georgia to be able to say, next year is going to be better than this year.
Young Australians are giving up hope. Builders are giving up hope that they can find a market for their houses because the costs and times involved are just too great. And young families who do have a home and have a mortgage, in some cases are giving up or are having to take on second jobs just to be able to make ends meet. This is unacceptable. This Labor government is making life harder for young Australians wanting to buy a home because it's just got too expensive to make ends meet. Interest rates are going up, inflation is surging, and now they're talking about putting an additional tax on the home. If you want more homes, we don't need another tax.
Authorised by Angus Taylor MP, Liberal Party, Camden.
Now, he's going to need more than just the general statements and avoid gaffes. Obviously, these types of, well, particularly the last video with him and his new deputy, Jane Hume, at a couple's home. They're very staged, very scripted. So we saw Angus Taylor on his Friday's first press conference, very nervous, reading from a written speech, stuttering a few times. Obviously, he was better on Sunrise, which was one of the clips there, and on Ben Forden with 2GB. But what is his housing policy going to be, and how is he going to limit migration, both to make housing more affordable, that our infrastructure isn't stretched, and so we are not importing people who won't assimilate? Well, he has said that he doesn't want to end Australia's non-discriminatory migration policy. But what we did get leaked to the media today was a Susan Lay's draft migration policy, which proposes a ban on immigrants from 13 countries with terrorist-controlled regions. So these are Afghanistan, Algeria, Cameroon, Egypt, Lebanon, Libya, Mali, Nigeria, Palestine, the Philippines, Gaza, Somalia, and Yemen. Now, the way that Sky News has done this headline, it makes it sound like that they're going to ban immigrants from these countries entirely. And so when people saw a country like the Philippines, which is over 90% Christian, they're like, what? And that's how George Christensen met his wife. But what, if you read the articles, not the headlines, it refers to 37 regions in these countries under the control of 15 listed terrorist organizations being designated. So obviously we know that the father and son Bondi terrorists traveled to the southern Philippines, which is an ISIS hotspot. And we do know that, well, Somalia is a failed state with Islamist warlords running past of it. Yemen, the Houthis control large parts of it. Nigeria, there's Boko Haram and ISIS. And now it says that the policy was prepared under former opposition leader Susan Ley, Shadow Immigration Minister Paul Scar, and Shadow Home Affairs Minister John O'Donigan. But they've both said today, Paul Scar and John O'Donigan, Paul Scar's a moderate, supports multiculturalism, and John O'Donigan, who's a conservative, both said, well, I never saw this. This never went to Shadow Cabinet. This is not my plan. So they're already walking back from something as mild as this, which is not even a full like Trump style travel ban, and only proposing to cut net overseas migration to 170,000. So net overseas migration will still, so they're just, again, they're just trying to signal, and their shills at Sky News are trying to sell it to you that because it's, and of course David Spears on the ABC asked Jane Hume, how are you going to screen for values? There's a stronger citizenship test. And Pauline Hanson was on Sharry tonight, and she basically said, of course you need a discriminatory immigration policy. So we're just, talk is cheap again from the Liberals. They're not serious. Those who have switched over to One Nation aren't going to switch back in. And Sky News, they call Sharry, I think I missed what Pauline Hanson did say about Islam, but Sharry at the end was saying, I reject what Pauline Hanson said. The vast majority of Muslims in Australia are peaceful and support our values. And it's worth noting that Sky News has sacked several contributors, primarily for being critical of Islam, such as Will Kingston and Evelyn Ray of Cauldron Pool, and Stephen Shivara, who, of course, was one of the promoters of the original March for Australia and founded Australia's Sons. Maybe Sky News cowered in the face of all those Sydney Morning Herald hit pieces on him and Stephen McInerney, who are academics at Campion College, trying to get them fired. So I don't see a much Angus Taylor. The fact that he's only got a 3% primary bounce without any gaffes so far. Of course, the Labor government, they think that he will make mistakes again. Though a lot of his gaffes have been by staffers, such as well done, Angus. Great move, fantastic. And of course, I think it would have been one of these staffers who fought for the City of Sydney doctored travel documents, which said that they spent millions on international travel when it was only a few thousand. But he won't be given long. He's got till the rest of the year to, well, what's the goal? To get the Liberals in the mid to high 20s, because, well, not only will Andrew Hastie want to be the next leader, a conservative leader, but also Tim Wilson will fancy himself as opposition leader as well. So he hasn't got much time, and his history is against him. And, well, the history of the Liberal Party with coming up with decent, hardcore policies that'll stop the bleeding to One Nation, history is against them because their heart is not in it, and they don't really mean it. As Pauline Hanson said, nobody is tougher on immigration than One Nation.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, there was a horrific mass shooting in Canada in Tumbler Ridge, which is in the Rocky region of the province of British Columbia. So that is on the west coast, just north of the... I'm going to get it wrong. It's either Washington or Oregon, which is the closest. They're the two closest states to British Columbia. British Columbia, Vancouver. That's where Justin Trudeau was from. Now, the shooter, 18-year-old transgender Jesse Van Rootselaar, who also went by their mother's maiden name, Jessie Strang, murdered 8 people, including started in the family home, killed their mother and also 11-year-old stepbrother, then went to Tumbler Ridge Secondary School and shot dead 5 students and 1 education assistant. There are 27 injured at the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting site. Now, Van Rootselaar had a documented history of mental health issues, substance abuse, including prescription and narcotics, a fascination with firearms and violent conduct. Online activities showed a progression from interest in guns and hunting to engaging with extreme nihilistic material on dark corners of the web. There was a mental health check by authorities in the past year. And there was also videos posted on YouTube about guns and shared content on platforms like Reddit in a trans gun subreddit depicting firearm use at a shooting range. So Van Rootselaar was born male, is a biological male, and then transitioned at age 12. And we first had Canadian police, the Mounties, first referred to a gun person, and then we had another police person, we should say, say that we should respect the mass shooter who killed themselves. We should respect their pronouns.
That includes the deceased gun person.
Okay. And then separately, do you know the gun person's relationship to the...
We're not hiding it. In fact, you're the first media to ask the question. I will say this. We identified the suspect as they chose to be identified in public and in social media. I can say that Jesse was born as a biological male who approximately, the information that I have, approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female both socially and
Now, I remember that Alex Rosen, when there was the assassination attempt on Donald Trump back in Pennsylvania. Alex Rosen is, of course, the pedo poacher So that was in Butler, Pennsylvania. Thomas Crooks was the perpetrator, was shot by the Secret Service. Alex Rosen said, "We need to know the shooter's pronouns." This is always this is one of the first things that people ask about whenever there's a mass shooting now. What pronouns did they go by? I mean, it's said sort of sarcastically, ironically, but we have to remember that innocent people have been shot, dead, killed. It is really horrific. But again, this is the reason people are asking is because there have been several instances of transgender or non-binary mass shooters, and it's obviously when they come for treatment, they obviously have mental health distress. We don't know whether it's. You sort of hope that these gender dysphoria experts would go a bit deeper, whether Jesse Van Rutzer was receiving ongoing treatment from counsellors who were giving them cross-sex hormones, whether they were getting ongoing counselling, whether they shared some of these dark thoughts. There was Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire who posted on X, "Trans people are the most dangerous and unstable group in existence, and it's not even close. The entire gender transition industry must be forcibly shut down immediately. Not just for the sake of the gender confused people at Praise Bond, but the safety of the general public." Not sure if we're allowed to actually say what Matt Walsh did in Australia. So all I'm going to say is surely that these gender clinics that are treating these young people should surely also screen them for other mental health issues and provide them with ongoing counselling as well. That would make sense as well. And it also should be noted that Jesse Von Rutzler was also into anime, which the accused assassin of Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson, was also into anime and had a trans furry fetish. And I had that transgender boyfriend named Twigs, who's now disappeared in witness protection. So what I can say is that it seems that there is a gateway from anime to violence, including mass murder and assassination. So certainly, that certainly I think should be flagged, because there does seem to be this, and if a lot of you would not have the misfortune of seeing just how messed up some anime or manga, which is like the Japanese those comic books, that's what it's called, just how dark, violent, and not just violent, but sexually violent as well. Like, there's this really disturbing underground culture in Japan, albeit that they don't have much mass violence in their country, though their former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated. But it's clearly having a corrupting effect on a lot of Western youth.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, over to the UK, where Reform, led by Nigel Farage, has been leading in the polls for a number of months now, far ahead of Labour and the Conservatives. And they've also had a number of high-profile conservative defections, including from those with checkered and mediocre histories, such as the former Chairman and Education Minister Naheem Zahawi, and also former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick, who didn't stop the boats, former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, and it risks becoming the Reformed Conservative Party. Now, Nigel Farage has said in the past that anyone can be English. English is how you feel. He had that Muslim Zaya Yusuf as the chairman of a reform for a while, and it was at the behest of Zaya Yusuf that he shafted one of his elected MPs, Rupert Lowe, former businessman, Southampton club chairman, who, unlike Nigel Farage, doesn't take a salary. Rupert Lowe, he donates his entire salary to charity, the MP for Great Yarmouth. So he founded the Restore Britain Party. But though at the same time we had the former deputy chairman of Reform UK, Ben Habib, who has a Pakistani father and an English mother, though has been in Britain all his life. He was shafted as deputy chairman of Reform, and so he decided to found Advance UK. Now, of course, a splinter party founded by one individual is not going to stop the reform juggernaut, which is becoming because it wants to win a respectable government. It's basically trying to water down and have a message that will get them the most donors and also of the most conservative establishment jumping over. Though Nigel Farage made his biggest blunder this week when he decided to foolishly have a position against working from home.
You can't go on the sick because you've got mild anxiety. But it is an attitudinal change that Britain needs. An attitudinal change to hard work rather than work-life balance. An attitudinal change to the idea of working from home. People aren't more productive working at home. It's a load of nonsense. They're more productive being with other fellow human beings and working as part of a team.
Now, Nigel Farage's statement against working from home didn't just upset the left-wing parties and media, but also I was disappointed a lot of nationalists, because so many Gen Zs and millennials, they can't get ahead in Britain. I mean, wages are much worse. Housing is much more unaffordable. There's much more crime and lack of police action. And so Nigel Farage wants to make people who can work from home, which means that if they want to start a family, they can spend an extra few hours at home with their young children rather than going into the commute on the train or by car, waste 2 hours and maybe being the victim of a crime. And you saw all the grey hairs in the audience. There's a lot of old boomers who say, well, we didn't get the luxury of working from home. It's, again, this boomer envy. Well, it's a good thing we have the technology now. And obviously they say, oh, what about the people that can't work from home? Well, why do you want to make the roads and rail more clogged for people who have to travel to work by forcing people who can work from home, forcing them back to the office? And of course, it's a massive generalization to say that work from home is universally bad, that it creates bad work ethic. Huge generalizations. Obviously, work from home is not for everyone, and some people work more productively at the office. Nigel Farage should just support flexible working arrangements. And if he wants to know how being against work from home will work out at a general election, just ask Jane Hume, the Deputy Liberal leader. Her policy of initial policy of forcing public servants to the office 5 days a week, that was seen as an attack against everyone working from home, that they weren't productive. And they ended up dropping it. Liberal Party mid-campaign, and Jane Hume says we're not going to bring it to a future election. The only time where work from home is a legitimate culture war flashpoint is, when it was a flashpoint, is during COVID lockdowns, because the people who could, there was a lot of people who could work from home who said that lockdown didn't affect them because they could be safe at home. Of course, there were lots of people who had to go out to work. So there were people who were living with and their businesses were shut down as well. So there are people living with the hard consequences of lockdown. While that's the only time when work from home was a significant flashpoint. We have had in the past week, following Nigel Farage's big blunder there, and it wasn't even related to a watered down migration policy. We've had Ben Habib announce that he is going to be folding Advance UK into Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain party. There's too many parties now. Remember, there was a Lawrence Fox's Reclaim party, which had the ex Conservative MP who was expelled from the Conservative Party. His name escapes me for a moment. Andrew Bridgen, that's who it is there. And now there has been a lot of excitement from hardcore nationalists who want mass deportations of illegals, and that is what in his video and manifesto Rupert Lowe is promising. So there is his manifesto there: mass deportations, legitimacy, legality, and logistics. Now, there's already reform people saying that a vote for a Restore Britain is a wasted vote that'll keep Reform UK out of government. That argument was used against Reform UK by the Conservatives because Britain has first past the post. This is why I can't stand critics, nationalists and Conservative critics of preferential voting here in Australia want first past the post. Preferential voting, and I don't mind if it's optional preferential voting, but I am comfortable with full preferential voting. It means that your vote's never wasted, that you can, as going back to what Jeff Kennett said, you can vote one nation first, and if you put the Liberals before the Labor Party and the Greens, you're making sure that you're defeating the pro-corruption party because your preference will go to your second choice. So, though the Brits had a referendum on, they called it alternate voting in 2011, and they voted against it. That's because David Cameron was against it, though that didn't stop Brexit happening. But is a Restore Britain, is it going to be a legitimate force, or is it going to go the same way as, say, when Fraser Anning left One Nation and formed Fraser Anning's Conservative National Party, and it only got about 2% at the 2019 federal election? Well, the first poll that has been published has Restore Britain already at 10%. Now, this is a poll by Find Out Now UK. So Restore Britain is at 10% on par with the Liberal Democrats. The Tories are only at 13%, Labour at 15%. The Greens are, in fact, ahead, second on 22%, and Reform out in first of 25%. Even if a Restore Britain doesn't get any people elected, hopefully it has the effect of dragging Reform UK back in the direction of favouring mass deportations, of saying that there is a proper English British identity, because at the moment they are just being, well, Reform, all they are promising is just to stop the existing, stop more illegals coming. And Rupert Lowe, he has been instrumental in getting the grooming gangs inquiry. I should also mention that Paul Golding of Britain First has said that he won't contest where Restore Britain is contesting. And it should also be noted that Elon Musk is supporting Restore Britain as well, as is Tommy Robinson. So it's been an enthusiastic start. Hopefully, Rupert Lowe, he's successful in business. Hopefully he can keep the momentum going. He's promising to ban both halal and kosher slaughter, which I don't believe any other party is proposing. Now, we also had in the past week the Manchester United co-owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, tell in an interview with Sky News UK that the UK had been colonised by immigrants, stating that high levels of immigration and people on benefits were unsuitable for the economy. And now, instantly, he was attacked from all angles, including by Keir Starmer, who said he is wrong. So this Keir Starmer's tough talk on immigration is shallow when he's trying to have a rack at Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Now, of course, he's been accused of being a hypocrite since he's a tax migrant to Monaco. He saved an estimated $4 billion in UK taxes. And also, they've said that Manchester United is a majority foreign international players. So in the English Premier League, there's not many Englishmen left. So, and he's also being investigated by the Football Association for bringing the game into disrepute. So that's sort of a threat to take away his stake in Manchester United. And I know that one of the ex-Manchester United players, Gary Neville, he's a very woke Labour supporter, took down Union Jacks that were near his pub in Manchester. I saw a clip of, it was actually Gary Lineker having a go at Jim Ratcliffe. I thought it was Gary Neville for a moment. There's both ex-footballers, now pundits called Gary, are both woke, insufferable assholes. So he's now apologised, said his choice of language, he regrets offending people, but defending the need for controlled and well-managed immigration. So basically, he has, again, boys and their toys who own sporting clubs, they don't want to lose that toy, that sporting club. So I think that's the main reason why he capitulated there.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
And that's the WilmsFront Snapshot news program for tonight. It was very quiet in the chat tonight. Nobody spoke, even though there's people watching, until Margot Huss. Though then Andy Nolch, the Indie Scientology podcast, has piped in. You know, any one of you in the chat can say something. You just have to watch. Now, this will be my second last WilmsFront Snapshot news program. Next week will be my final one, and until late March, because I'm going to Thailand for 3 weeks for a holiday. So obviously I won't have access to my streaming software there, but I will obviously have a computer and vlogging equipment with me. So I will be writing content and doing, hopefully, don't hold me to it, a number of vlogs, though I will still be beaming in for my weekly, bi-weekly, fortnightly Wilms report on Reality Check Radio on its breakfast program with Paul Brennan. So the next report will be tomorrow, and it's basically an Australian abridged version of WilmsFront here for the New Zealand audience. So I will put the link to rcr.media in the live chat, and there also will be a new report from Tiger Mountain with Richard Borstencroft. We recorded a whole bunch late January, which I'll get out before I do travel to Thailand. So obviously I will be back next Monday evening, same time, 9 p.m. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sane, stay free, stay cool, because the heat wave is back here, well, particularly here in Melbourne. Stay optimistic, and also, like me tonight, you still got to watch your words now. Otherwise, you will end up falling afoul of one of these various hate speech laws. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the Unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news